Hello and welcome to your week 1 recap of VCT 2025. More specifically though, VCT Americas, because frankly, America is the only country that really matters here. We go to our first match of the kickoff event, which was EG versus Loud, and it ended up being a very close series, all things considered. We start with Split, Loud's pick, and it ended up going in favor of EG. EG looked red hot, going up 8-4 by the half, but Loud managed to claw back and managed to take multiple rounds when everything flipped and reset, going 12-12 and bringing it to overtime and keeping the momentum and winning in overtime 12-14. From there we go to Pearl, EG's pick, and it ended up again being very close. Back-to-back wins of rounds brought it to a tie, a 6-6 halftime, but just like the first map, they kept momentum, they kept stealing a couple extra rounds from EG, and they ended up winning 10-13. Loud looking really good in general. Their new recruits, DG's in, Vinny, looking really solid. Even the new agents, Tejo and Vise, being picked, looked really good in this new comp. So overall, everything showed a lot of promise. EG even showed a lot of promise. Well, that is if you believe, them being stuck in the past is promising. Better luck next time, I guess, EG. Might want to work on that. Anyways, from there, Loud moved on to face Crew Esports, and that felt like total domination from Loud. We begin at Haven, their pick, and they just absolutely blew it out of the water. It was 10-2 for them in favor by the half, and they just kept that difference. It was just too much of a gap for Crew to come back, and it ended up being 13-7 for Loud win. Then we go to Split, and it ended up being a little closer. It was 6-6 by the half, but just like last series, Loud managed to steal a couple extra rounds here and there and managed to win 10-13. Overall, it just solidified Loud's status as a contender to watch this kickoff and even just this season in general, and it also puts a little bit down Crew, who were having a very good latter half towards the end of last season, stage 2 in particular. So have to watch that there, but again, it's kickoff. Things will definitely change the more we go into it. Let's move on then to MIBR versus 100 Thieves, and 100 Thieves absolutely dominated over MIBR. We go to Lotus, MIBR's pick, and it wasn't even close. 100 Thieves taking it 10-2 by the half, and only allowed 2 more in favor of MIBR, going 13-4 by the end of it. We go to Bind. It was actually a lot closer this time around. MIBR were actually up by the half, going 8-4, but as soon as it switched over, it was just GG from there. It was 9-13. They allowed only 100 Thieves for MIBR after that, and it just solidified their win for this series. Now, despite poor results, you can't be too sad for MIBR, because again, you have to consider that they have a nuclear warhead on their team, one that's really handsome. And the next match would be very interesting and have a lot of build up around it for 100 Thieves, as they would be facing Sen, who has their former teammate Bane on it. So a lot of shade would just be thrown around there, a lot of words, a lot of smack being thrown at Bane, thrown at Sentinels. But of course, words are just that. It does not invoke action, which Sentinels did during their match. It was the first map of 3 series, and it was very close, but Sen put 100 Thieves in their place. We begin at Split Sen pick, and it was actually looking pretty rough for them. They were being dominated on pretty darn early. 100 Thieves went up 8-4 by the half, and it kept it there for the rest of the map, going 13-4. And from there, Bind looked like a very similar story, going 0-4 stars for 100 Thieves, but Sen managed to claw their way back and managed to finally find a footing, going 7-5 by the half, and then managed to keep that momentum going and going 13-9 by the end of it. So we're now 1-1. We end off in Pearl, which again was very close, a 6-6 halftime, but Sen ended up having a stronger attack side. They ended up going on 13-9 by the end of it, and that was it. 100 Thieves sent to lower brackets. From there, we go to NRG versus Cloud9. A lot of buzz around NRG with their new players, Som, Mata, these individual key components, but it just wasn't enough this time around for their match against C9. It felt very similar to Crew versus Loud. We had C9 that absolutely just dominated. And we go to Fracture Energy's pick, and C9 just blew it out of the water to 10-2, but somehow lost that lead in the next number of rounds as Energy managed to pull back and take it to 12-12. But in OT, they just closed it off. C9 managed to get that map win. And then there was no more messing around in Lotus. It was a 6-6 tie, but C9 ended up winning it all. going 13-10 by the end of it. Overall, I just felt like C9 was teasing it all, but a lot of potential for energy, and even Finesse believes he has a very good squad, some top contenders there. He believes Verno might be top 5 players in NA. We'll just have to see if that's true or not. Anyways, we go to G2 Esports versus C9, and this is a complete opposite story. This was real total domination here. We go to Lotus, C9's pick, and G2 just absolutely trounced on it, going 8-4 by the half and 13-6 by the other half, only allowing 2 in that half to begin with at all. Then BIS comes along, G2 pick, and even more conclusive results, 9-3 by the half, 13-8. It just did not feel fair at all. But it's unsurprising that this result would happen, because you have to consider that their placements are literally in their name. Anyways, we go to 2-game Esports versus Furia, the Ascension winner versus, frankly, almost last place of last year, and it did not even feel fair somehow. Furia looked like they're in prime position. We go to Haven 2G pick, and it was just smooth sailing, it felt like, for Furia. It was 5-7 by the halftime, and then 7-13 by the end, only giving up 2 maps in that half. And then we go to Lois, and it was even more conclusive. It was 4-8 by the half, and then 5-13 by the end, only giving up 1 map in that round. So it just felt unfair. It was even their sub team. It wasn't even their real players. It was a sub team. They just threw together a bunch of random people and had them go against 2G. I don't know what's gonna happen. Anyways, obviously we can't be too hard on 2G. Tier 1 is probably very difficult. A lot more pressure, a lot more eyes, and overall just a lot different. So the only thing we could do is hope for the best for them and hope that they can kind of begin to find a foot and begin to find something. But fortunately for them, they have Lev on their side. Lev goes against Furia and absolutely dominates them now. We go to Haven, Furious pick, and it was just not even fair. 9-3 by the half, 13-8 by the full time. Split, 9-3 at a half again, 13-6 by the end, allowing even less wins by that turnaround time, and Lev just looked really sharp. Nothing to really be surprised about there. We go to our official standings by the end of the week. In the upper bracket, we have Loud versus Sen, G2 versus Lev. From there, we go to lowers. We have EG versus Furia, MIBR versus C9, Energy versus 100 Thieves, and 2G versus Crew. We go to international standings. This is what they look like. Overall, a lot going on. And yeah, that's everything for you for now. Tune in next week.